Welcome to Kiss and Chapters, where every story begins with a spark and ends with a swoon. If you love heart-fluttering romances, unexpected twists, and characters you'll root for, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so I can keep bringing you more sweet, emotional, and unforgettable stories. Let's fall in love with every chapter, together. Chapter 1, an action. If there was a record for the fastest way to ruin an audition, I would have broken it today. Next, the casting director barked without even looking up from her phone. I was still in the middle of my dramatic monologue, clutching an imaginary love letter to my chest. My throat went dry. But I wasn't finished. Thank you. We'll call you. Translation, don't wait by the phone. I trudged out of the audition room with my tote bag slung over my shoulder like it was carrying the weight of my failed career. At 25, I had perfected the art of rejection. It was almost funny now. Almost. Outside, the other hopefuls were still rehearsing their lines. One girl flipped her hair in a perfect swoosh and pouted at the mirror. Another recited lines about tragic love with tears brimming in her eyes. I, meanwhile, was practicing my best impression of a washed-up has-been, minus the has-been part since I had never even been. The complaints begin. That night, I collapsed onto my bed, drowning my sorrows in instant noodles. On my cracked tablet screen, an overdramatic CO drama was playing. You know the type, cold, handsome CO, a secretary hopelessly in love, endless misunderstandings, and lots of slow-motion stares. Really? I muttered at the screen, slurping noodles. The secretary humiliates herself and he just insults her? Who writes this trash? The secretary on screen tripped while serving coffee. The cup flew in the air in slow motion. The CEO's spotless white shirt was instantly ruined. Cue dramatic piano. I threw my chopsticks down. If that were me, I'd just quit. Why beg for a man who looks like he's allergic to joy? The scene shifted. The secretary, red-eyed, stammered, "President, I like you. Girl, have some self-respect." I yelled. My neighbor banged the wall in annoyance. I sighed. If only I could go into one of these stories and show them how it's done. No simping. No begging. Just cool, calm, collected. The screen flickered. I blinked. Maybe my tablet was finally dying. I tapped it twice. The lights dimmed, my vision blurred, and when the world tilted. When I opened my eyes, the world was different. Gone was my dingy apartment with ramen stains on the sheets. In its place stood a sleek office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city skyline. A desk too big for one human sat in the center, stacked with reports and a shiny nameplate that read, Secretary Macey Holt. I froze. No. No, no, no. I pinched my arm. Hard. The pain was real. The glossy marble floor reflected my gaping face. I staggered to the mirror on the wall. A sharp black pencil skirt, crisp white blouse, and a neat bun stared back at me. My makeup was professional. My heels were high enough to kill me. This is impossible. My voice cracked. From the corner of the room, a mechanical ding echoed. Welcome, player. I spun around. No one was there. You have transmigrated into CEO's burning love. Role, the pathetic secretary. Mission, pine hopelessly after the CEO until your inevitable humiliation. My jaw dropped. Excuse me. Pathetic secretary? Humiliation? No way. I clenched my fist. Listen, mysterious system voice. I've lived 25 years of humiliation already. I'm not doing it again. This time I'm rewriting the script. The system beeped like it didn't approve. I smirked. Watch me. First day on the job. The office door swung open. A tall figure entered, dressed in a suit tailored within an inch of perfection. Broad shoulders, sharp jawline, eyes colder than an Antarctic freezer. The male lead. Phew. In the novel, this was the moment when Secretary Macey Holt spilled coffee all over him. The beginning of her endless shame. My eyes flicked to the steaming cup on my desk. Oh no, not today. He walked toward me, each step precise like he was on a runway. His presence radiated wealth and arrogance. Coffee, he said curtly. I picked up the cup carefully with both hands and placed it in front of him without a drop spilling. Here you go, President. Silence. He stared at me, waiting. Almost like he expected the disaster. His brows furrowed. That's it. Yes. I smiled politely. Have a nice day. He blinked, clearly thrown off. Then karma struck. As he reached for the cup, his sleeve snagged and the coffee tipped, splashing onto his own expensive suit. I froze. He froze. The system buzzed nervously. I pulled a tissue box from the desk and set it down with practiced calm. Here, President. His eyes widened. This wasn't in the script. The CEO's suspicion. Later that day, whispers rippled through the office. Did you see? Secretary Holt didn't even stutter this morning. She's usually begging for attention, right? President Gray looked shocked. I ignored them. For the first time I felt powerful. I wasn't the pitiful side character anymore. I was in charge of my dignity. From inside his office, I felt the CEO's gaze burning holes through the glass window. He was watching me. And that, my dear audience, was the first sign that the script had changed. Chapter 2, Coffee Contract Catastrophe. The next morning I arrived at the office determined to prove one thing. I was not the secretary from the novel. I was better. I wore flats instead of needle-thin heels. No heroine ever sprains her ankle gracefully, tied my hair in a practical ponytail and swapped heavy makeup for a swipe of lip balm. The mirror told me I looked more like friendly HR assistant than CEO's tragic love-struck sidekick. Good. That was exactly what I wanted. When the script tests you. The system had been oddly quiet since yesterday's coffee incident. But as I typed up morning reports, the mechanical voice pinged again. New mission. Work overtime tonight with the CEO. This will increase intimacy by 10 points. I snorted into my keyboard. Increase intimacy? What is this, a dating sim? Failure to comply will result in penalty. I crossed my arms. What kind of penalty? Silence. Typical. Bluffing. No thanks. I've seen enough dramas to know what happens during overtime. Either I trip and land in his arms, or I fall asleep on his desk like some martyr for love. Pass. The system made a disgruntled bzzt. Secretary Holt. His voice dropped from above me like a block of ice. I looked up and there he was, Eric Gray, ho extraordinaire, every inch the male lead with his sharp gaze and faint frown. Yes, President? I said sweetly. His eyes narrowed. Prepare the Q3 contracts. I expect them by tonight. Here was the script at work. The overtime trap. Of course, I said smoothly. I'll have them on your desk before 5. Something flickered across his face. Surprise. Skepticism. He leaned closer. Before 5. Yes, I replied. Efficiency is part of my job, isn't it? He studied me like I had grown another head. I met his stare calmly as though I hadn't just punched a plot hole straight through the story. Fast forward button. By lunch I had already reorganized the contracts, cross-checked the numbers and printed out the reports. Years of scrambling through low-paying side jobs had turned me into a paperwork ninja. At 4:55 I knocked on the glass door to his office. President Gray, the Q3 contracts are ready. He looked up from his laptop startled. Already? Yes. I set them down gently on his desk. Would you like me to review them with you now, or should I email the summary? His brows knitted. You're done. Done, I confirmed, resisting the urge to salute. Silence. He tapped his pen against the desk, expression unreadable. Leave them. His tone was clipped, but his eyes holstered on me longer than necessary. Office gossip. Back at my desk I could practically hear the whispers buzzing around me like bees. Is Secretary Holt trying to impress the president? She's never been this competent before. Maybe she's plotting something. Let them talk. At least they weren't calling me pathetic. Still, I could feel his gaze through the glass walls, sharp and calculating. He was supposed to be indifferent, but his attention seemed to follow me everywhere. The script was unraveling thread by thread. System breakdown. That evening, while I stretched on my tiny secretary apartment couch, seriously, couldn't the novel have given me something fancier? The system buzzed again. Mission failed. Intimacy points decreased. I smirked. Good. That's the plan. Warning. Deviating from the plot may lead to consequences. Consequences like what? He stops being cold and starts chasing me? Sounds like a win. The system stuttered. These crackled fair. I froze. Did I just break it? Theo's thoughts. Meanwhile, in his own penthouse, Eric Gray sat with a glass of whiskey, reviewing the contracts. Every page was perfect. Not a single typo, not a misplaced comma. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. Macey Holt was supposed to be clumsy, desperate, and overeager. He remembered her stammering confessions, the endless mistakes, the coffee spills. He remembered feeling nothing but irritation. But now she was cool, professional, untouchable. For the first time in years, Eric Gray felt unsettled and intrigued. The next morning, the system buzzed again with a new mission. But I was already planning how to dodge it. After all, if the script wanted me humiliated, then it would have to try a lot harder. Because this secretary? She was officially off the market. Chapter 3. The CEO is acting weird. By my third day as Secretary Macey Holt, I had decided two things. 1. The system was a glorified broken alarm clock. 2. Eric Gray, my supposed cold CEO boss, was acting very suspicious. Another mission. I was sipping my morning latte because if I was stuck in a transmigration novel, I was at least going to enjoy the coffee budget, when the system crackled to life again. New mission. Deliver forgotten documents to the CEO at his evening dinner meeting. Bonus. Trip fall into his arms. I snorted. Trip. On what? His aura. Try harder, system. Buzzed in annoyance. Visier. I waved it off and went back to typing. The CEO's first test. By mid-morning, Eric Gray called me into his office. His gaze was as sharp as the crease in his tailored suit. Secretary Holt. Yes, President? Prepare these reports. He pushed a thick folder toward me. I need them retyped, reorganized, and delivered by the end of the day. I opened the folder. A mountain of numbers, contracts, and notes stared back. The classic CEO power move. Bury the secretary in paperwork so she either collapses dramatically or begs for help. I smiled. No problem. He bolted as if expecting me to faint on the spot. Plot twist. Speedrun secretary. By noon, I was back at his desk, neatly organized reports in hand. Here you go, President. He looked up slowly, pen paused mid-signature. Already? Yes. Color-coded by priority. Silence. He flipped through the pages, frown deepening, not from mistakes but because there weren't any. Finally, he set the folder down. You may leave. But his eyes followed me all the way to the door. The errand trap. At 3 he struck again. Secretary Holt. I turned. Deliver this to our partner company immediately. He handed me a thick envelope with the kind of gravitas one usually reserves for nuclear launch codes. I accepted it calmly. Of course. His gaze holstered. Almost expectant. I knew this scene. The accidentally lost documents trope. In the novel, Macey Holt dropped the file in the rain, ruined the papers, and cried in front of him. Not this time. I hailed a cab, handcuffed my tote bag shut with the documents inside, thank you years of cheap street smart hacks, and delivered them spotless and on time. When I reported back, his jaw tightened. No? Complications? None, I said cheerfully. If I didn't know better, I'd think he sounded disappointed. The dinner trap. At 5 he leaned against his desk, arms crossed. Secretary Holt. Join me at tonight's business dinner. Now this was dangerous territory. Dinners in these novels usually meant jealous women, spilled wine, or humiliating karaoke. I smiled politely. Apologies, President. I have prior plans. His brow arched. Prior plans. Yes. Laundry night. His lips twitched, the closest thing to a smile I'd ever seen on him. Very well. But as I left, I could feel his gaze burning between my shoulder blades. Office gossip part 2. The next day, whispers buzzed louder than ever. Secretary Holt turned down dinner with the president? She must be crazy. Or she's playing hard to get. I ignored them as usual. But I couldn't ignore the fact that Eric Gray kept watching me, as if trying to figure out what game I was playing. Meanwhile in CEO Brainland. That night, Eric Gray sat in his penthouse again, staring at the city lights. Macey Holt. She wasn't simpering. She wasn't clumsy. She wasn't begging for his attention. She was efficient. Cool. Unbothered. And infuriatingly hard to read. For the first time in his perfectly ordered life, Eric Gray felt a flicker of curiosity. And maybe something else. Something he definitely wasn't supposed to feel. The system loses it. That evening while I folded socks, the system shrieked in my ear. Warning. Plot deviation critical. Male lead's interest level rising abnormally fast. I chuckled. So, isn't that your whole point? No. He's supposed to ignore you. This isn't the script. I smirked. Well, guess what? The script changed on me. And if Eric Gray kept staring like that, maybe it had changed for him too. Chapter 4. The system has a glitch? I woke up the next morning feeling unusually optimistic. For the first time in years, no lifetimes, I wasn't the world's punchline. No tripping, no begging, no tragic secretary with a hopeless crush. I was free. Or so I thought. Mission impossible. As I brushed my teeth, the system crackled to life. New mission. Smile at the CEO seductively for 30 seconds. I spat toothpaste into the sink. Excuse me? Seductively? At the office. Mission mandatory. Nope. Absolutely not. I'd rather choke on my toothbrush. The system buzzed like an angry wasp. Penalty. You will experience wardrobe malfunction at inconvenient moment. I froze. You wouldn't dare. Calculating penalty initiation. I yanked open my closet, pulled out the sturdiest turtleneck sweater I owned and muttered, let's see you malfunction this. The CEO sighting number 1. The cafe. On my way to work, I stopped at the cafe downstairs for a latte. Secretary Holt? I nearly spilled my order. Standing right behind me in line was none other than Eric Gray himself, immaculate in a gray suit, looking like he'd stepped out of a fashion spread. My brain short-circuited. President Gray? Drink coffee here. His gaze was steady. Is that surprising? Yes. I blurted. I mean no. It's just Starbucks doesn't exactly scream, phew. He didn't answer. Instead he ordered the exact same drink as mine. Suspicious. Very suspicious. The CEO sighting number 2. The bookstore. At lunch, I decided to escape office gossip and head to a quiet bookstore. I was halfway through browsing the romance section when Secretary Holt. I nearly dropped the book. President Gray. What are you doing here? He raised a brow. Reading. Reading what? He glanced at the book in his hand. Beginner's Guide to Flower Arrangement. I squinted. Since when do you arrange flowers? His ears turned faintly pink. A friend recommended it. Yeah, right. The CEO sighting number 3. The gym. After work, I thought I'd shake off the weirdness at the gym. I climbed onto the treadmill, popped in my earbuds and pressed start. Need a spotter? I screamed. And almost fell off the treadmill. Eric Gray stood beside me, perfectly composed, holding a water bottle. He wasn't even sweating. His dress shirt sleeves were rolled up like he belonged in a sports commercial. I ripped my earbuds out. Why are you here? Exercise, he said simply. Don't you have, I don't know, an empire to run? He studied me for a beat. And you? Touché. System breakdown. That night while I was soaking in the tub, the system finally snapped. Alert. Male lead's proximity is exceeding narrative boundaries. Plot deviation. 73%. Urgent course correction required. I dunked my head under the water and shouted, maybe he just likes bookstores and gyms, okay? The system fizzled. Busy error. Recalculating mission. New mission. Avoid the CEO at all costs. I sat up, hair plastered to my face. Now you want me to avoid him? Make up your mind. Meanwhile in CEO land. In his penthouse, Eric Gray leaned against the window sipping his whiskey. He thought of Macey Holt. Not the clingy, weepy secretary of his memories. But the one who brushed him off at dinner. The one who delivered flawless contracts. The one who raised a brow at him in the bookstore like he was the suspicious one. He should have been irritated. Instead he felt, what was the word? Amused. And oddly restless. Because no matter where he went today she had been there. Or maybe he had been there because she was. The realization. I crawled into bed that night, exhausted. Between the system's glaring missions and Eric Gray's mysterious appearances, something was definitely off. Maybe the system wasn't just broken. Maybe it was connected to him. And if that was true, then this wasn't just me changing the script. He was changing it too. Chapter 5. Why are you following me? By day 5 of my transmigration adventure, I had come to a startling conclusion. Eric Gray was everywhere. Not just in the office, where fine he technically belonged, But everywhere else too. Cafes. Bookstores. The gym. The bakery where I bought my guilty pleasure custard buns. And every time he would appear with the same unreadable expression, as if it was the most natural thing in the world to run into his secretary while buying, of all things, flower arrangement guides. Enough was enough. System malfunction take 2. That morning as I put on my shoes the system screeched. Mission. Smile seductively at the CEO. No, I said, shoving my foot into my sneaker. Mission override. Ignore the CEO completely. Wait, what? Secondary override. Spill hot soup on the CEO. I froze mid-lace. Are you drunk? Mission recalculating. I grabbed my bag and stormed out. Useless system. The morning encounter. I barely made it down the block before. Secretary Holt. I yelped. There he was, Eric Gray in another perfectly tailored suit, standing right outside my apartment building. President Gray? My voice cracked. Why are you here? His brow furrowed as if I were the suspicious one. I live in this city. I narrowed my eyes. So do 10 million other people. What are the odds? Apparently, he said smoothly, quite high. Suspicious. Very suspicious. The confrontation. By lunchtime I'd had it. I cornered him outside his office. President Gray, we need to talk. His brows arched faintly. About what? About you following me. The silence in the hallway was deafening. 2 interns nearly tripped over each other trying to escape the blast radius. Eric Gray's expression didn't flicker. Following you? Yes. I folded my arms. Hey, bookstore, gym, bakery. Admit it, you're stalking me. Pause. Then very calmly, you flatter yourself, Secretary Holt. But then his lips curved just a little. Besides, if I were following you, wouldn't you have noticed sooner? My brain short-circuited. That's not the point. System meltdown. The system buzzed so loudly I thought my teeth would rattle out. Warning. Critical deviation. Male lead's interest level, escalating. New mission. Run away from the CEO immediately. I ignored it. Override. Kiss the CEO immediately. I choked. Pick one, you maniac. Excuse me. Eric Gray tilted his head, sharp gaze cutting into me. Nothing. I squeaked, slapping a hand over my ear like that would shut the system up. The bakery incident. After work I tried to lose him with my most advanced stealth move. Hiding in the corner bakery. I bought 2 custard buns, sank into a chair and sighed in victory. Then a shadow fell across my table. I looked up slowly. Secretary Holt. Eric Gray set down a paper bag. Inside. Custard buns. I slammed the table. This is ridiculous. Are you telling me it's just a coincidence you like custard buns too? His gaze was steady. Is that a problem? Yes. I snapped. No. Maybe. Ugh. I shoved one of my buns at him. Here, if you're going to stalk me, at least pay the custard tax. His lips twitched. He accepted the bun. And for the first time I thought I saw something dangerous flicker in his eyes. Not coldness but amusement. Maybe even interest. Meanwhile in CEO Brainland. Later that night, Eric Gray set the half-eaten custard bun on his desk, staring at it as if it were an alien artifact. He wasn't sure what had gotten into him lately. He was supposed to be detached, untouchable, untangled by petty things. Yet here he was buying custard buns because Macey Holt liked them. What was wrong with him? And why, for the first time in years, did it feel right? Curtain close. I lay awake in bed, glaring at the ceiling. He was definitely following me. The system was definitely broken. And worst of all, I was starting to wonder what would happen if I let the script unravel completely. Chapter 6, The Drunken CEO. If my life were still following the novel's original script, tonight was supposed to be my turn to make a fool of myself. According to the system, Macey Holt, Amy, was destined to get hopelessly drunk at a company banquet, clinging to the CEO's arm and blurt out a teary love confession. Eric Gray would respond with icy disdain, and the humiliation would cement my tragic side character arc. But apparently the script had been fed into a shredder. System directive of doom. The moment I walked into the hotel ballroom, the system crackled to life. Mission: drink until you confess your undying love. Nope. I muttered, eyeing the champagne tower like it was liquid poison. Not happening. Mission override. If you don't confess, you'll be single for eternity. Bold of you to assume I'm not already. I grabbed a glass of soda instead, sipping like the responsible transmigrator I was. The system buzzed angrily but then sputtered. Glitched. Fell silent. A little too silent. Which was exactly when Eric Gray appeared at my side, glass of whiskey in hand, looking far too composed for someone who had clearly been cornered by senior executives all night. Role reversal. Secretary Holt. His voice was smoother than the whiskey he was drinking. You're not touching the alcohol? No thank you, I said primly, sipping my soda like it was holy water. Someone has to stay sane. For the first time since I'd known him, Eric Gray's lips curved into something dangerously close to a smile. One of us should, he said and promptly drained his glass. My eyes widened. President Gray, wait, that's too late. He was already accepting another from a hovering director. And another. And another. By his fourth, I realized with growing horror. The cold, untouchable sea was getting tipsy. The confession that wasn't mine. Half an hour later, Eric Gray leaned toward me, tie slightly loosened, eyes darker than usual. Macey Holt. I froze. Why yes. You're strange. Excuse me. He frowned as if the word didn't capture it. Not strange. Different. You're not like before. My stomach dropped. Oh. He noticed. I laughed nervously. What do you mean, before? I've always been me. Ha ha. He ignored me, gaze unfocused but voice strangely earnest. Before you chased me everywhere. Loud. Desperate. Annoying. Wow, I muttered. Tell me how you really feel. But now, his brows knit as he studied me. Now you run away. You confuse me. I bolted. I confuse you? Have you met yourself? Then in the hush of the ballroom he said it, softly but unmistakably. I don't want you to run anymore. System panic. The system, clearly having rebooted from its nap, screeched. Warning. Male-led confession detected prematurely. Script integrity, 3% and falling. Emergency mission. Pretend you didn't hear him. Pretend I didn't. Are you insane? I hissed under my breath. Macey Holt. His voice was quieter now, almost vulnerable. Do you understand? My heart thumped like a broken drum. Of course I understood. But the system was shrieking like a smoke alarm, and I wasn't about to risk a full collapse of this insane novel world. So I did what any self-respecting transmigrator would do. I smiled brightly, patted his shoulder and said, Of course I understand. You need water. Lots of water. Immediately. By the time I dragged him back to his car with the help of a terrified assistant, Eric Gray was half asleep, murmuring something I couldn't quite catch. I leaned back against the seat, exhausted. The script had officially imploded. Instead of me embarrassing myself, the CO had drunkenly confessed. And instead of tragedy, I wasn't sure what awaited us. But my heart, traitor that it was, fluttered anyway. Chapter 7, Danger. Male lead in pursuit. Morning after are supposed to be quiet, maybe a little awkward and best followed by strong coffee. But apparently when your boss is a cold CEO who drunkenly confessed his feelings the night before, the morning after comes with hazards. The CEO's selective amnesia. When I stepped into the office, Eric Gray was already there. Crisp suit, tie perfectly knotted, face like a marble statue carved by an artist who hated joy. For half a second I wondered if last night had been a hallucination. Maybe the system had been pranking me. Maybe I'd been drunk on soda. Then his eyes flicked up, meeting mine. And he choked on his coffee. I froze. He froze. The assistant froze. And then, as if nothing had happened, he set the cup down and coolly said, You're late. I'm 10 minutes early, I deadpanned. He adjusted his tie. Then you should have been 15 minutes early. So this was how we were going to play it. The nothing happened game. Fine by me. The problem with denial. Except, nothing happened lasted all of 10 minutes. First he assigned me his personal schedule. Meetings I normally never touched suddenly became my responsibility. President Gray, I asked cautiously, why am I accompanying you to lunch with the investors? He glanced at me. You're efficient. Efficient at eating? He didn't answer. Second, he started appearing everywhere. When I grabbed a quick sandwich in the break room, he just happened to stop by. When I went down to the archives to fetch documents, he needed fresh air, and followed. By the third coincidence, I glared at him. Are you following me? He didn't even blink. Yes. What? I mean, he corrected smoothly. No. Suspicious. Very suspicious. The system meltdown. Of course, the system chose this moment to wake up again, buzzing frantically in my head. Error. Male lead pursuit detected far too early. Emergency script repair. Initiating. I sighed. Here we go again. New mission. Avoid CO for the next 72 hours to restore balance. Oh, that'll be easy, I muttered. Spoiler, it was not easy. The pursuit. At lunch, he pulled out a chair for me before sitting down himself. The investors gawked like he'd sprouted a second head. During a meeting, he handed me his pen. His gold-plated Mont Blanc, mind you. The sacred pen no one was allowed to touch. And when my heels snapped on the marble floor of the lobby, he caught me before I hit the ground. Smooth, fast, like a romance drama hero. My pulse stuttered. Are you all right? His voice was low, serious. I quickly stood on my own, brushing off my skirt. Perfectly fine. Please put me down. He hesitated. You're lighter than I thought. Excuse me. The system screamed like a fire alarm. Warning. Male lead is in full pursuit mode. Abort. Abort. A dangerous realization. That night, I collapsed onto my bed, groaning. In the novel, the secretary spent years humiliating herself, and the CO only noticed her at the very end. But now, he wasn't just noticing me, he was chasing me. Me, the struggling actress who was supposed to be background comedy relief. This is bad, I whispered into my pillow. Because somewhere between dodging the script and avoiding his dark eyes, I wasn't entirely sure I wanted him to stop chasing me. Chapter 8. The truth breaks through. I used to think being a struggling actress was stressful. Memorizing 30 pages of script overnight? Stressful. Bombing an audition in front of a casting director who checked their phone mid-scene? Extremely stressful. But living inside a CO romance novel with a malfunctioning system that screams in my head while said CO stalks me with suspicious tenderness? That's a whole new level of stress. Glitch number 1. Overlapping voices. It started during Monday's staff meeting. I was half asleep, pretending to take notes while Eric Gray reviewed quarterly numbers in his calm, authoritative baritone. That's when the system buzzed in my head. New mission. Smile at the CEO. I sighed internally. Great. Another dumb task. But then, Macey Holt, Eric Gray said, pausing mid-sentence. Smile at me. I nearly dropped my pen. My head snapped up. His expression was neutral, as if he hadn't just parroted the system word for word. Excuse me. I croaked. He frowned, flipping to the next slide. I said smile, it makes the team less tense. Sure. Totally normal. Absolutely not weird. Glitch number 2, word for word. Later, as I filed reports in his office, the system chimed again. Mission. Tell the CO he looks handsome. I rolled my eyes. Not a chance. But the moment I thought it, Eric Gray leaned back in his chair and asked casually, Why don't you tell me I look handsome? My jaw unhinged like a cartoon character's. What? His lips twitched, almost amused. Most secretaries would flatter their boss. You never do. That's because I'm not most secretaries. He studied me in silence, eyes dark, intense. And for one terrifying heartbeat I wondered, did he hear the system too? Glitch number 3, the slip. By Tuesday the glitches were constant. The system would say, avoid eye contact. And Eric Gray would murmur, don't look away from me. The system would order, walk 2 steps closer. And he'd say low and deliberate, come here. It was like they were speaking the same language. Finally I snapped. President Gray, I blurted as we walked out of a meeting, are you hearing voices? He stopped, turned. His gaze was unreadable. Voices. Yes. Like, instructions. Commands. Telling you what to do. For a second his expression flickered. Confusion, recognition, something raw. Then he smoothed it over. You've been working too hard. Classic gaslighting move. But I wasn't buying it. Cracks in the script. That night the system erupted again. Critical alert. Script collapsing. Male lead subconscious is interfering. Warning. Proximity to male lead destabilizes the world. I froze. Male lead subconscious? Before I could ask what that meant, the voice glitched violently. Static. And then, Macey Holt. Not the robotic monotone of the system, but Eric Gray's deep, unmistakable voice. Don't leave. I shot up from my bed, heart hammering. That wasn't the system. That was him. Realization. The dots connected in my head like dominoes topping. The system wasn't some cosmic transmigration program. It was him. Or at least, some buried part of him. Which meant the entire reason I was here was because Eric Gray wanted me here. Chapter 9. You wrote this world. If life were a drama, this would be the climax. The scene where the heroine confronts the truth, the music swells, and the audience collectively gasps. Unfortunately, in my case, the background music was the office printer jamming for the third time that morning. Still, the truth couldn't be ignored anymore. Cornering the CEO. I didn't wait for another glitch. Didn't wait for the system to whisper orders in his voice. I marched straight into Eric Gray's office, slammed the door behind me and blurted, "You're the system." He blinked. Slowly put down his pen. "Good morning to you too. Don't play dumb," I snapped. "The missions, the commands, it's you. It's always been you." His brows furrowed, but not with denial. More like guilt. Which was worse. Cracks in his armor. For the first time since I'd known him, Eric Gray looked unsteady. He leaned back in his chair, gaze fixed on me as if weighing a decision. Finally, he asked quietly, "When did you notice?" I threw my hands in the air. "When you started parroting the system word for word. Do you know how creepy it is to have my boss tell me to smile at him like some broken AI?" His lips quirked. "So you did notice. This isn't funny." I shot back. "What are you? Some kind of mind-controlling narrator?" The revelation. Silence stretched between us, thick enough to choke on. At last he said, "You don't belong here." The words hit me like ice water. "Excuse me. This world, this company, these people, it isn't real." His voice was low, pained. "It's mine. I created it." My stomach flipped. "You created?" "My subconscious," he said. "My mind pulled you here." I staggered back, shaking my head. "That's impossible. I transmigrated because of a novel. A system." He looked at me then, eyes darker than I'd ever seen. "The system is me. Some part of me. I wanted you here. I couldn't stop it." Confession in disguise. I should have laughed. Should have told him he was insane. Instead, all I could manage was a whisper. "Why me?" His expression softened, raw and vulnerable in a way I never thought possible from the cold suit. "Because in my world you were always chasing me. And I hated it." My heart shriveled. "But here," his voice broke. "When you stopped chasing, I realized I couldn't bear it. I wanted you to stay. To look at me. To choose me." For once, Eric Gray wasn't cold or composed or untouchable. He was just a man confessing in the only way he knew how. By rewriting reality. System collapse. The system buzzed faintly in my head, flickering like a dying light bulb. Warning, world integrity. 1%. Collapse imminent. I clenched my fist. So this whole time I wasn't trapped in some book. I was trapped in you. His eyes locked on mine. Not trapped. Chosen. My chest tightened. My actress brain screamed, "This is the romantic climax. Kiss him already." But my survival brain whispered, "If this world collapses, what happens to you? To us?" The decision. The ground seemed to tremble faintly, lights flickering overhead. I had a choice. Clinging to the collapsing world he created. Or let it go and face the real world where maybe, just maybe, he existed too. I swallowed hard, whispering, "Eric Gray, if this is your world, then what happens when it disappears?" He gave me a faint, bittersweet smile. "Then I'll have no choice but to find you in the real one." And with that, the office around us began to dissolve like static on a broken TV screen. Chapter 10, Happily Ever After, Take 2. The last thing I saw before everything collapsed was Eric Gray's faint, wistful smile. The last thing I heard was his voice, deep, steady, certain, "I'll find you." Then the world dissolved into static. Back to reality. When I opened my eyes again, there were no marble floors, no endless rows of cubicles, No boss looming over my desk like a perfectly tailored thundercloud. Instead, I was back in the familiar cramped audition hall. The sharp fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, the smell of instant coffee wafted from a corner table, and an assistant director barked at nervous actors to line up alphabetically. For a moment, I thought I'd dreamed the entire thing. Until I noticed the script in my lap. The title page read, "The CEO's Secretary." I laughed. Out loud. A little hysterically. Of course. Of course. The twist of fate. Candidate 37, you're next. I jolted, clutching the script. Showtime. I marched onto the small stage, ready to read my lines as the tragic secretary destined for humiliation. Except when I looked up at the panel of judges. My heart stopped. Sitting in the middle, wearing a perfectly tailored suit, was Eric Gray. Not dream Eric Gray. Not subconscious system Eric Gray. Flesh and blood. Very much breathing Eric Gray. He was here. The CEO versus the actor. I froze, brain short-circuiting. You what? How? He arched a brow. Candidate 37, are those your opening lines? My mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. You're real. The other judges glanced at each other, confused. Eric Gray's lips curved just slightly. Of course I'm real. That smile, half smug, half amused, was exactly the same one he wore when he said don't run from me. My knees wobbled. Script again. Go ahead and read your scene, the assistant director urged. Right. The scene. I looked down at the script. It was the secretary's humiliation arc. The part where she begged the CEO to notice her. Not doing that again. Instead, I tossed the script aside and looked straight at Eric Gray. Mr. CEO, I said dramatically, channeling every ounce of actress bravado I had left. I quit. Effective immediately. Find yourself another lovesick secretary. The room went dead silent. The other judges blinked, utterly baffled. And Eric Gray laughed. A low, rich, genuine laugh that sent goosebumps down my arms. You really haven't changed, he murmured. Still rewriting the script. Happily ever after, take 2. I crossed my arms, glaring. Care to explain why you're sitting there like some investor/final boss? Because I am, he said simply. And because I told you I'd find you. My heart stuttered. This was real. This was happening. Fine, I said, trying not to sound breathless. You found me. Now what? He leaned back in his chair, eyes glistening with amusement and something warmer, deeper. Now, Eric Gray said, we see if you'll stop running. I rolled my eyes, but my lips twitched. You're impossible. Good, he said softly. Then I'll never let you go. And just like that, for the first time in 2 lifetimes, I realized. The script really had changed on me. And this time I liked the ending. Epilogue take. Somewhere in the deepest corner of my subconscious, the system's robotic voice sputtered back to life just once. Mission complete. Bonus mission unlocked. Kiss the CEO already. I groaned. Shut up. But maybe, just maybe, I didn't entirely disagree. Bonus chapter. Our script. The morning sun spilled lazily across the penthouse. Anna stretched on the couch, clutching the warm cup of coffee she definitely didn't make. Because apparently, Eric now enjoyed making her breakfast. The once arrogant, cold-blooded Sue had transformed into a man who smiled while frying eggs and looked at her like she was the entire plotline of his life. She still wasn't used to it. You're staring again, Eric said, voice smooth as he carried over a tray. He set it down and sat beside her, much too close because of course he did. I'm not staring, Macey lied, sipping her coffee. I was just thinking. Eric tilted his head, amused. About how handsome I am. About how unbelievable this is. Macey put down her mug. I'm in a novel. You're not supposed to chase me. The script says the CEO ignores the secretary until the last few chapters, where she's already miserable and... Macey. He cut her off, taking her hand. The script changed. Her heart thumped. Yeah, but why? And then he said the words that made her coffee nearly spill all over his custom-made shirt. Because you're here, because of me. Macey blinked. What? The system. The transmigration. The reason you're in this world. His gaze softened, vulnerable in a way she'd never thought possible. I pulled you here. Her jaw dropped. You what now? Like, what, some CEO sorcery? Did you wave a contract and poof me into existence? He chuckled, shaking his head. Not magic. My subconscious. You were always supposed to be in my story. The novel was just the excuse my mind made up to bring you closer. Macey's brain short-circuited. So basically, you're telling me I didn't transmigrate because of some system? It's because you wanted me. Yes, Eric said simply, squeezing her hand. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving it. Macey let out a strangled laugh. Wow, that's romantic. And terrifying. Do you know how insane that sounds? He leaned closer, whispering against her ear, insanely in love with you, maybe. Oh my God, she groaned, shoving him away, but her cheeks were burning. Stop being smooth, it's ruining my defenses. Good. He smirked. Then I'll ruin them every day. Macey buried her face in her hands, but her lips betrayed her with a smile. The script may have changed, the system may have been a lie, but sitting here with Eric, her ridiculous, shameless, secretly soft soul, it felt like she was exactly where she belonged. After all, maybe some stories weren't written. Maybe they were rewritten, together.